Today we're going to discuss political cartoons and how to interpret their basic elements. Political cartoons are an art form that serves as a source of opinion on society. They can be used to express the viewpoints of social, political, or economic issues. An artist may use humor, symbolism, historical events, or stereotypes in their political cartoons. It's important for us to understand political cartoons because it is part of our 8th grade social studies standards, as students are required to demonstrate mastery of interpreting political cartoons as part of their information processing skills. Political cartoons also provide valuable insight into current events and cultural responses. Finally, political cartoons can serve as a primary source document. As you're looking through political cartoons, evaluate them for symbols, exaggeration, labeling, irony, and analogy. Symbols are graphics or images that are used to represent a larger idea. The symbol of the turtle can mean that something is progressing slowly, whether that be economic growth or a company growth. The symbol of the dollar sign indicates money or the economy. Lady Liberty can represent American pride or patriotism. And the graduation cap and diploma can represent completion of college or high school or some larger goal. Exaggeration is overstating or magnifying a problem or feature. In our example, we have one individual telling a fish story, exaggerating the size of the fish to be larger than it really is. Political cartoonists can also exaggerate physical features in caricatures, exaggerating a nose, ears, or lips of their character. Labels are used to add emphasis or clarity. In the example shown on the left, the sign labeled Houston indicates that this is a flood victim of Hurricane Harvey. On the right, the labels of the college student as they progress through their year and the effects of college loans as they complete their studies. Irony is the difference in the way things are and the way things are expected to be. In the example, McDonald's is celebrating 50 years, and with all of the health issues from fast food, those that are singing happy birthday to McDonald's include the weight loss clinics and cardiac clinics. In our second example, oftentimes we experience cutbacks in education. They may be for staff or programs or athletics, but not for homework. The idea of analogy is a more complex concept to understand and recognize. It is the comparison of two unlike things that share some characteristics. In our first example, when you go out to milk the cow, you have to take buckets with you. The buckets are labeled with different parts of our government. And our cow, the bell is labeled as the U.S. Treasury. There is nothing left in this cow to be milked. In our second example, the idea of America's dependence on foreign oil from Iraq is similar to the dependence of someone who is addicted to drugs. Another important feature to consider is an artist's viewpoint. Often, a political cartoon is trying to persuade a reader to feel or think a certain way. When considering artist's viewpoint, think about what the subject or issue the artist is commenting on, what is the subject being portrayed, and what are the feelings suggested by the images. In our example, the man in the doghouse is labeled as the good citizen who forgets to vote. The artist is portraying the idea of voter apathy and how people who don't vote will be looked down upon by society. Humor is used to create interest. Humor can be added through caricatures with exaggeration, through irony, satire, and stereotypes. Stereotypes are an oversimplified judgment of a group of people or objects. In the example provided, the athlete is thinking to himself and is not coming up with much. So it's the idea of that dumb athlete. Historical images can also be used in political cartoons to help us provide insight to feelings of society during a specific time. Artists include historical or literary images to express viewpoints of current issues, and they recognize the historical or literary images as necessary to understand the meaning of the cartoon. A couple examples of historical images includes the angel of Teddy Roosevelt and his reaction when he learns that President Carter gave the Panama Canal to the Panamanian government, or the idea that the Chinese immigrants were not allowed in as the guards were standing at the gates to allow immigrants in because of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. For our purposes of studying political cartoons, we will look to understand public opinion of a particular time period, examining opposing views, and comparing historical and contemporary issues. When we analyze political cartoons, let us employ the visual thinking strategy, which consists of 3 questions. What is going on in the picture? What makes you say that? And what more can you find? In our example, we have our great American in his USA t-shirt with a hamburger, Coke, French fries, smoking a cigarette, and drinking a beer. His reaction seems to indicate that he is concerned over Ebola. Let us look for symbols, exaggeration, labeling, irony, and analogy. And as we use the visual thinking strategy, think about what is going on in the picture, what makes you say that, and what more can you find. A couple of the labels include the number of deaths from obesity, tobacco, and alcohol, and the exaggeration that his response over Ebola versus the hundreds of thousands of deaths that are brought on by our unhealthy behaviors. So think about what is going on in the picture, what makes you say that, and what more can you find. Thank you for your time and attention, and good luck on your study of political cartoons.